Khiron Life Sciences Corp is a Latin American-based pharmaceutical company that develops and commercializes medical cannabis products. Chiron has core operations in Colombia and is fully licensed in the country for the cultivation, production, domestic distribution, and international export of both THC and CBD medical cannabis. In May 2018, Chiron listed on the TSX Venture, becoming one of the first Colombian-based medical cannabis companies to trade on any exchange globally. Khiron Life Sciences Corp is listed on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol KHRN.
Chris Naprawa joins me now. He's the president of Khiron Life Sciences, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol KHRN. Chris, welcome back.
Thank you, James.
Chris, your stock has been volatile.
Yeah.
And if I was a trader, I could make money on this stock. What's driving the volatility in your stock right now?
Well, I think first of all, we've had some comps come out that are that have been higher value, and that helped lift our stock. I think we've executed very well in our multi-country strategy. That's helped lift it. More recently, I think we could have done a little bit better job on a couple communication pieces. Up until now, we only disclosed, put out our press releases on the Canadian wire that was just disseminated through the internet for the US wire. On April 9th, we decided to put stuff out on the US wire, and that first announcement was the definitive agreement to buy NettaGrowth.
Right.
So if you were only on US wires, it made it look like that announcement was made on April 9th, and in fact it was announced on January 25th when the stock was halted. When we did that deal, the stock was at $1.61, and that was the deemed price for the deal. So if you were a first time seeing that press release on April 9th that said we just bought this company for 8.5 million shares at $1.61 when the quote the day before was $3.63,
right,
you have a right to be upset. So I got all these emails and all these phone calls, and I thought it'd be just great to come on and just talk about, we got to go back and look at that January 25th disclosure.
Sure. So
now going forward, we disclose everything on both wires. We've kind of hit a critical mass of U.S. shareholders. We have thousands and thousands of U.S. shareholders now. So we're going to continue to strive to do a better job. I think we always make our best effort on communication and being completely transparent, but we want to make sure that we're super consistent on this stuff.
You bet. Okay, so that being said, I mean, if I was a gambling man, which I absolutely am, and I'm looking at all of the companies that are going into billion-dollar-plus valuations, I look at Latin America, and there's a couple of companies flirting with $1 billion plus. Chiron strikes me as the company that deserves to be closest to that valuation, based on the fact that you are the most well-developed company in terms of market share in Latin America. You're in Colombia. You've got things happening in Peru. You've got Brazil coming down the pike. So let's just give me an overview of all that's happening in Latin America.
Well, Latin America is evolving just so quickly. We've got a team of people. We've got, I think, 8 or 9 regulatory professionals now on the team. We follow these developments very, very closely. We have people on the ground, of course, in Mexico, in Brazil, in Peru, in Chile, in Uruguay, Brazil, and we are not only trying to be there for when the legislation comes down the pipe, but to the extent really understand it and influence to the extent we can prior and communicate. As you know, Juan Diego Alvarez was the author of the cannabis legislation in Colombia. He's a sought-after regulatory expert. We have excellent dialogue with all the governments there and his former peers at all the different governments. So, a lot of we get lumped in a lot of time with the local cultivators, which is really not our business. We're a medical company. We're a consumer packaged goods company. We're multi-jurisdictional, and we've said to the world that once we've got our platform built in Latin America, we're going to take on the rest of the world. And
sure.
There are direct flights to Europe from South America. People might be surprised to know. So we'll be there, and the United States. We've never said that we're not going to be there either. We've never said that we're not going to be there. We want to be big enough. And if you look at some of the fabulous companies that have been developed out of Latin America, and there's from InBev on, there's many examples.
Yeah.
Why can't we be one of those?
Sure, absolutely. And you have actually, you're one of the only companies that I've seen out there that has this large focus on cosmeceuticals with, that obviously there's a natural sort of affiliation or affinity for cosmetics in CBD. So what's the status of that whole business rolling out in terms of CBD-infused cosmeceuticals?
Yeah, we're the first. I think we're still the only ones to have a CBD product. There's some hemp stuff out there, but they don't have a pure CBD product. We rolled that out as a commercial business in November last year. I think we'll probably be in Colombia maybe between 300 and 400 stores by the end of this quarter. is kind of a target, and that'll pretty much cover Colombia. In that time, you'll see us be in Peru. We've already got products approved in Peru, and we're working through all the regulations in all the other countries to get there. As you know, we've got our JV with Dixie Brands. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Kuida on the U.S. shelves, sometime this year.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so Chris, the volatility that we've seen, is that something that investors can expect to continue and it's kind of representative of trading opportunity, or is that going to sort of mellow out now?
Well, who knows? Right. But anybody that's in the cannabis business, or certainly investors in the cannabis business, got to get used to volatility. Yep. It seems like every 12 weeks or 16 weeks we have a massive correction and something great happens, like with the canopy news this morning with acreage. There's always another catalyst, and I think the cat is out of the bag. You're going to see more Fortune 500 companies get into this business, and the more that we can have distribution products on shelves, have all that plumbing ready to go, I think we'll be more attractive to one of those.
Right. So do you see Chiron as a takeout target for a large multi-country, multi-continent operator?
I think somebody wanted to step into this business and be a meaningful player in our jurisdiction and actually sell products and be in those markets. I think we're a very attractive prospect. I hope we get to execute our strategy on our own, because we have a long, long way to go. We've built an amazing foundation. We have an amazing team. We have the ability to execute, and hopefully we can be left on our own to do that.
You bet. All right, Chris, great update. We'll leave it there for now and have you back soon. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, James.